is the Jeff Santos Show.
"33 minutes past the hour. It is the Jeff Santos Show that you are tuned into, coming to you live from the South Coast, Monday through Friday, 3 to 6. Normally, today we're off at 5 o'clock Eastern for Central, and we will be replaying this hour with Galen and MTC coming up in the next hour. We'll be, again, talking with MTC, Renaissance Man of the Jeff Santos Show. If you want to have a thought on what Galen had to say or what I have, opined on in regards to streaming baseball or football or basketball, hockey games, and how it really is to a point, it's getting out of hand, and you don't know where it is. Caitlin White brought the TV guide. It's again how generations change. If you're 22 years old, or our good friend Cam in Green Bay, TV guide, what the heck is that? Well, back going back to the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, the TV guide, particularly when you had 3 channels or just a handful of cable channels, you looked at it because, that's where you would find out, what your shows were, whether before my time, whether it was the Westerns, or Milton Berle, or when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, what time was MASH on, or what time was Seinfeld, whatever the case may be. Of course, they all had their prime time, and eventually you got to know it was, as they used to say on NBC, must-see TV at 9 o'clock for Seinfeld, for most of the time that was there. And I think they started off at like 8 o'clock or whatever before it became a huge hit. But, these are the things that have happened. And, television and TV guides were the big thing. In fact, so much so, to tie this politically, that the Newt Gingrich Republicans in 1994, you have to look it up, Gen Z, used the TV guide to issue what the Republicans wanted to do on the contract on America. That's what the Democrats would later call it. I think it was Contract with America. That was the actual thing. And they actually used the TV guide to talk about the agenda, cut taxes, cut this, cut government, whatever, government sucks kind of approach. And, privatize everything, similar to what we're getting now. But what they did is they used a vehicle that, political people didn't think would be worthwhile before that. It was the television guide, filled with Seinfeld and Friends and all the other programs of the 1990s. All right, we have tracked and located, through satellite and other ways of finding him, our good friend, the Renaissance Man of the Jeff Santos Show, Mark Taylor-Canfield, and he joins us on audio today. So we see no guitar, but we get the sunglasses, so that's the good thing. Mark, how are you today, man? How are things in Seattle, WA?
How is my volume, Jeff? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay, yes.
Okay, I'm using earbuds. So, we just got back into town from a really great climb. We went up to the summit at Snoqualmie, and it's the end of the ski season. That's usually November through April. So we got there, and there was still a lot of snow. It came late this year, but there was still a bit there. So we had some good snowshoeing kind of weather, and we got on the Pacific Crest Trail for a while, but then realized that the snow was still too deep because we were sinking up to our hips and snow drifts and little creeks that were running under the snow that we didn't see. So we decided that was probably it. And there's a reason why the forest rangers were telling people like, not a good time to be on the trails. Just enough snow left to make it difficult and dangerous, and just melted enough underneath that you don't know when you're stepping on an ice bridge or something and there's nothing underneath you. So, but we had a great time. And I wanted to let people know I have a new article out at Democracy Watch News. It's an article about the VDEM group, Varieties of Democracy group from the University of Gothenburg in Sweden, who have downgraded the United States, in their latest report, saying that we are no longer a liberal democracy. No surprise.
No surprise.
And then, as I'm always saying, we have May 3rd coming up, which is World Press Freedom Day, and I'll be participating probably remotely. I don't know if I'm going to go to The Hague this year, but I might. I'll definitely be involved at some of the international conferences around it. And this year, we have had some success because the Associated Press is actually having a whole week of events surrounding World Press Freedom Day. That's the first time. And we've been lobbying the Associated Press and CNN and everybody else, to try to cover this international day that's dedicated to press freedom as declared by the United Nations. And we've never been able to get anybody but Axios, actually, and your show, and Tom Hartman and Democracy Watch News, but almost no one else, even in the alternative media or independent media, will talk about it. So this year, the Associated Press has a week full of events. UNESCO is sponsoring their International Press Freedom Day conference in Zambia. Actually, believe it or not, Zambia has a better record in press freedom than the United States, although they did escort a reporter out of a press briefing recently while their president was speaking, so that was not a good sign. But in general, they actually have a better record on that than we do. There are countries in West Africa who have more respect for journalism than we do in the United States, which is
That's really
a sad statement, Jeff. But we are ranked 57th in the world in terms of press freedom on the World Press Freedom Index, as compiled by Reporters Without Borders, and no one is going to report that to you except me, pretty much. You're not going to do that.
That is exactly the case. You are the man, and they should make you, the executive director of that group, or at the very least, an honorary member, because you've been doing the their work, promotion, and so forth about the importance of this. And look what we're having right now. I mean, I noticed the other day that CBS broke a story on the issue of soldiers not having the equipment in this conflict with Iran. Well, I'm wondering, are they going to be able to follow up with this soldier, or is Mr. Ellison and company going to basically put the kibosh on that, like they did with the 60 Minutes story on the El Salvadorian prisons? Or, does Ellison then go after CNN because they're telling the truth on what's happening in Iran, or what's happening just in general on the domestic front? Are they going to basically squash that? They're going to fire, the more open-minded, if you want to call them progressive, fine, but not necessarily always progressive journalists, and put on a bunch of hacks like our friends at Fox News. So this is really important, and it all connects.
Yes, and I'm sorry that if you hear some sound in the background, that's the trolley, the Seattle trolley going by. We just got back into town from our trip to the mountains, and it was so beautiful up there, Jeff. I cannot believe that within a half hour of downtown Seattle, you can be in beautiful, just pristine forest. I mean, up at Snoqualmie Pass especially. I mean, except for I-90, which is, like you always used to say, if we kept following it east, we would have ended up in your neighborhood.
There you go.
We took that up to the top of the summit on the Cascade Mountains, and there was a few people still skiing, some cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, sledding going on because there's still a snowpack. But this is the end of the ski season, and we had a beautiful sunny day. And now I'm headed out. Oh, that's the trolley ringing in the background. It always reminds me of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood whenever I hear that. I wake up in the morning thinking we're going to the Magic Kingdom.
Or the Golden Gate of San Francisco, with the San Francisco treat, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, it's great stuff. I love the ambience.
On Lake Union. Yeah, we're going kayaking in Lake Union. I've got 2 kayaks, and it's so cool, Jeff. They are inflatable. They're very, very sturdy, really well made by this company called Hydroforce, which does like serious whitewater rafting boats. And you can literally deflate them and put them in a backpack or put them in a cart and carry them to the water. If you could slide that on there, that would be great. I'm getting help with my cart here from a stranger. I appreciate that.
We had our good friend Herb Boyd on the subways in New York City, which was fascinating. Now, 3,000 miles away, we got MTC getting off a trolley, with his mates there, who we went up to the Cascades. And how far, by the way, are you from Mount Rainier?
It's a couple-hour drive. What I was saying before that's so incredible is that within literally 20 minutes, you can be at Tiger Mountain, Lake Sammamish, Cougar Mountain, which yes, there are cougars there, which is why it's called that. So you have to be careful. But
Yeah, you want to be
those are
careful with
right
the cougars.
outside of Seattle. Like you can
And we're
drive
not
to the
talking about
top
older
of the
women
summit.
either.
Yeah, no, but you can drive to the top of the summit at Snoqualmie within an hour of Seattle, and you're there. It's an easy drive. It's a freeway, but it's beautiful, you know. So you get there fast. You can get to Lake Sammamish from downtown Seattle in 30 minutes, and now you're out in pristine state forest. There's hiking trails around there called that's where Cougar Mountain's at. And literally, what's great about it is we're finally getting a decent mass transit system. We finally got our light rail going. We got Jeff, I want to announce, and Katie Wilson, our new mayor, was very proud of this at the event she was at town hall last week, where Meghna Chakrabarty, the NPR, actually WBUR correspondent, was interviewing her, but she was celebrating the fact that we now have a train that goes east across the Lake Washington Bridge, the floating bridge, and so you can now get to Bellevue in about, I don't know, 10 minutes.
Wow.
It's like we're almost like a real world-class city. I guess they're getting ready for the World Cup, and they're trying to prove to everybody that the reason that Seattle was chosen, by the way, is because we are considered one of the most walkable cities in the United States. You can literally just park your car at Seattle Center in a parking garage somewhere and walk to Pioneer Square, walk to Capitol Hill. And we have these little shuttles and trolleys too, which help people get around quickly.
That's what's made Boston.
You
know, the best cities in the world are the cities you can walk in, and London is a very walkable city. So very true. And I think what Seattle has done over the years, I got to go back and hang out with MTC, who we have never met. We were in the same building in 2016, but we never could connect. And that, of course, was the Democratic Convention in Philly. We were just on the opposite ends, and I was on the air, and he was running to try to come to our studios. We could never reach. But one of these days we'll meet, and if it's not there, maybe it's in Chicago or someplace. The phone number to join is 833-545-5333. That's 833-545-5333. As we talk to MTC on the road today, hiking. You know, it reminds me of this television commercial that Kevin Nealon, of Saturday Night Live fame, is doing, and use the line of, like, go take a hike, and he's telling people actually to take a hike, and I think that's what you guys are doing, and so forth, which I think is not only good for your heart and good for your physical fitness and cardio, but it's a way to appreciate nature too. And all these things that are maintained by forest rangers and government, good stuff. Protect and conserve, the parks and the mountain ranges that are so vital to water and everything else, to our survival.
My grandfather was a park ranger, so I have a lot of respect for it. Also, my uncle was a fire ranger, so he would be up in those big towers out in the middle of nowhere watching for fires. There's one of those up on the ridge at Snoqualmie too. I guess what we were doing, we were actually climbing. We were actually on hard packed snow, having to use poles in order to get up the incline because it was so steep. The problem was that this time of year, I just want to say this, I don't recommend that anybody go hiking where we went. That was not probably smart on our part. We were just feeling really gutsy. But this time of year,
you got to be careful with the snow for sure.
Not a good time to be hiking. You should stay off the trails until the park rangers say they're open. And there are plenty of trails lower elevation where there's no snow where you can hike all day long that are even closer to Seattle. So we were just being very daring. We were the only people there. So it's a nice time to go because it's the end of snow season. So there aren't a lot of snow bunnies hanging out. There's a few, but most people have packed it up for the season. So it's not touristy at all. Everybody's got lots of time to talk to you, and it's not hectic. You can slide down the ski slope on your, saucer sled or whatever. Nobody cares, where normally you would be like dodging skiers. So it was pretty nice. But there are sizable ski areas right outside of Seattle. And I like to do cross-country skiing because you can downhill with them. You can come down the slope on them, but you can also go hiking with them and get off the slope and go on the trails with them when there's snow, of course. So that's nice. It's much better to be snowshoeing or skiing this time of year or even earlier in the season than it would be to go hiking, because if you're on snowshoes or skis, you're going to be supported above the snow. But when you're hiking,
Right.
You take a step and it might be 5 feet down to the ground, and you don't even realize that there's that much snowpack.
Yeah, no doubt. We're
So it
talking
can
with
be
Mark
dangerous.
Taylor-Canfield here as we talk on a Friday afternoon, and we have been intensely talking politics, and we get a couple of comments from MTC on the latest, particularly with Trump and Iran and the Epstein stuff. I don't know how you felt about this, but this whole thing with Melania coming out yesterday and saying, "I know nothing, I see nothing, I know nothing about." Of course, I'm playing Sergeant Schultz from Hogan's Heroes. About her relationship with Epstein, but you look at those photographs. Oh, doesn't seem like she doesn't know him. I mean, it's up close and personal with her. She's a sandwich between Donald Trump and Epstein. So it's still, to me, this Iran war has a lot of links from all the reports that have been out there that there's ties that the Netanyahu government has information on Trump and Epstein, as do the Iranians. And, that's why that this war is happening, which is sad. 13 Americans, and I don't know how many hundreds have been injured already in this war. For what? For Trump's hide, please. So I'm just wondering, the more and more you get away from Seattle proper, I'm wondering if you're feeling an exhaustion with Trump. What has been your take, Mark, as you get out of the well, you're still in the 206, but get out of the center city of Seattle?
Wow. Well, I mean, there's a lot of political fatigue and emotional fatigue. A lot of my friends are just exhausted from the struggle for civil rights and freedom of the press and freedom of expression right now. And then you add on top of that this war, which nobody wanted. In fact, the people, most people, I would assume, that voted for Trump didn't want it either, because he ran on a "I didn't take you to war" platform. Of course, we've heard that before from candidates who then take us to war. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really a sad time. I mean, I think at Democracy Watch News, and that's democracywatchnews.org, by the way, folks, we are discussing a lot of these issues about where the country is going and how we as journalists need to approach it. But I made a pretty strong statement in my article that, could have gone either way. Some people could say it's a policy statement or an op-ed, but we published it as a straight up journalistic article. But all I'm doing is I'm just laying out the facts in terms of how we're seen by the rest of the world, and it's not looking good. We definitely are losing prestige on so many fronts, and it's really disappointing to see that. We have had close relationships with European countries and Western democracies for a long time. And now it looks like, people like Orban probably like us more than, the French or the German chancellor or the
Right,
French
right,
president.
or anybody who
I
believes in democracy, which Orban doesn't, of course, and one of the heroes
right.
of the
His
incumbent
party,
Orange
they're having
Menace.
elections right now. Yeah, they're having
Yeah,
elections in Hungary right now. And he was on the forefront of this kind of neo-fascist European movement, which Trump kind of models himself after in some ways. And it was they're using a lot of artificial intelligence in their political ads, and they're not telling people that it's fake. These are fake videos of they have their opposition doing all sorts of things that they never did. Where we've entered that realm. There was a major event last week here by the Seattle City Club, and local representatives of the media here from our local NPR affiliate KUOW were there. Somebody from Fox News was there. folks from TVW, which is our state version of C-SPAN that does all the live coverage of the legislative sessions and stuff. They were all there, and this whole issue about AI came up because my question to the panel was, what do we do when you can't tell the difference? Because we're already there. We already see AI-generated ads and videos all day long on social media that are all fake, and they don't say they're fake. And the algorithms are not catching them, and the gatekeepers at these social platforms.
One of our great callers from Green Bay was talking about the AI domination, and if we don't do something about it over the next few years, man, this thing is going to get right out of control. So I'm hoping that the candidates running for president in 2028, many of them who are with Al Sharpton this week, from Harris, who was there today, to Pritzker and Wes Moore, and presumably Gavin Newsom, whether he's going to be at that event, I'm not sure, but they all have something to say on this, and it's going to be fascinating to see, exactly what is happening. And frankly, I think it's extremely important. You can add Cory Booker and Shapiro and others to that lineup as well. But yeah, it's to me one of the top issues of how we move forward as a society, and it affects everybody. Just not just left, right, center. It's everybody, non-political included, of course. As we move, toward another decade, in 4 years. So it is something to think about, that we're in a time right now where there's a lot of people who are all about making money at any cost, and they will destroy people's lives if they have to do it. And that's a sad way to live, and sad way to have a society that is, dedicated to profit and profit only, and anybody who is a human who disagrees is just another collateral damage, for the country. Hey, I only got a couple of minutes here, but I want to run by you. What is going on with your Mariners? I see that Erod is, is it Erod? There's so many Rodriguez's now, but you have your great center fielder there. He's had an up and down beginning. What is the latest there?
Cal has struggled. Our home run king has struggled, but he finally hit a home run the other day. There's a lot going on between the Seahawks and the Mariners. There's a lot of trades and things that have been happening, and not everything is looking good. Let's put it that way. I did want to say this though. We talk about music a lot, and Seattle being such a great music town. I mean, it's great. It's got the great natural wonders around it, and it's got the great urban environment because there's so many music venues, and I perform in a lot of them. They're happening all week, and great jams are happening with really excellent professional musicians here. But I wanted to let people know there is another song that's come out that's probably, I predict, will become sort of an anthem for this pro-democracy movement, which I've been calling for years, and it's by the old punk band from the UK, from Leeds, UK, called Gang of Four, and it's called No Kings Here. And it's a great song, Jeff. It's a really great anthem. It's just really powerful, energetic, it's definitely punk style, but it's very political, and it's like Bruce Springsteen's song. I think both of those songs.
That's great. Hey, I only got 40 seconds. You got one comment, 10 seconds on what was Seattle after the No Kings. We didn't have you on last week, of course.
Well, we had at least 80,000 people, and
wow,
people are glad to march, but they want to see real change. And I don't know if the Dems correct that institute in Sweden, this next election will be our chance to turn around
really important.
The country.
Thank you, MTC. All the best in your hiking, my friend. Appreciate you. I want to appreciate Jalen as well, producing this broadcast. And, of course, our good friends, Rocky and Robin in social media world. Folks, have a great weekend. Replay coming up next. But yours truly wants to tell you, keep on fighting peacefully. But right now, I got to go. You stay tuned.